because they're going to be joining us right now on our face-off.
Oh, gentlemen, welcome to the face-off. We have Jay Smooth, coaches here, and Lost. All right, we'll start with Jay Smooth. I want to ask you guys, you might have heard the question of the day today, which is how did you get into tanks? So, Coach, when did you start? How did that happen?
I got into tanks with some Army buddies. Said, hey, you got to check this out. Obviously, being former Cav, we know all about tanks. So got into it that way. Then some college buddies were playing it as well. So I've been in it since beta. So it's been crazy. It's been fun.
Oh, yeah, it's been a wild ride.
It's going to be the last hurrah.
Really? Is this really going to be your last time around in the season?
This is it.
This is it? Jay
Season 9.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, I feel like we've heard this once or twice. Who's taking over?
This is it.
Oh,
I don't know. We'll flip a coin.
What are you going to be doing instead of competing in tanks?
I'm going to be going outside my front door once in a while.
Really?
Enjoying the sunshine.
What's that like?
No, actually, to be honest, I've decided to grace this world with another life. So I'll be doing that.
Oh, congratulations, sir. Well,
thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll take a minute. Actually, we'll get back to you in just a sec, Jay Smooth. But Lost, you've been sitting around listening to this for a minute. It's kind of hard to follow an answer like that. But how did you get into World of Tanks?
Is that the best way you can do it?
I mean, I think that's appropriate for sure. But how did you get into tanks, Lost?
Brother actually was playing it, and I said, what was that? And he said it was World of Tanks, and I gave it a shot and played ever since.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so thank you very much, Lost. Jay Smooth, I got to jump back to you because we got to talk about your team too, all right? Your guys that you're leaving behind are struggling right now. They're on the struggle bus. It's difficult. What are you doing to turn this team around?
Well, we need to fire the GM. We've had some roster issues that way. Pub Whispers had some issues with work, so he hasn't been able to be around as much. Zach Coombs been having some connection issues. So, when we went 0-5 against Aquatic, we put 2 guys in on the last second because guys couldn't show up or real life happens. And okay, here we go.
It's just those other things happening in life, just things that aren't directly involved with the game, just breaking down for you.
Yeah, I mean, when your boss says you got to stay, you got to stay. When your connection decides it's not going to work, it's not going to work. So you're putting other people up that might not have been there for practice or ready to go. So it's just trying to bounce around life. But we finally have gotten some consistent, now that we've gotten into it and we've kind of been playing with together with a consistent lineup, things have gotten better. We should have at least drawn with Deja Vu. And I think if we don't throw a couple games, we at least have a better showing against Eclipse. No excuses for Aquatic. We were just out of sync, out of whack. Our guys weren't. With changing guys right away, it was just too tough to overcome, and they're a good team.
All right.
So, Lost, we're going to go over to you real quick. On a very similar note, you guys have pretty much changed your roster every single match day so far. You really haven't had the same starting 7. What's up with that?
Zone just trying to find a confident 7. Whoever he feels confident for which one. Some people play different roles better, so he just switches them out and try to maximize what we can do for each map.
Do you feel you've narrowed it down to a starting 7, or are you guys still working on that?
No. We're inconsistent. Indecision 2016 or 2017 now. Sorry.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you for joining us on the Face-Off. Jay Smooth, do you have any final words before we let you go?
No. Hopefully someday you guys will be found. And with that, I'll see you in the danger zone.
All right, Lost, your final words before we get out to this battle, sir.
Best of luck to you, man.
All right, thank you guys for joining us on the Face-Off. We will see you on the battlefield. All right, well, that's the official announcement there. I did not expect that, actually. I didn't realize
He's been rumbling about that for a while. It's always something other, different. Football season starting. Now I'm having a new kid. So
that's huge news for him,
No,
dude.
it is, but he's going to stop playing tanks for a little while, and it's just like that drug. It's just like he misses it, has some withdrawals, and has to get playing again.
Yeah, or actually, I kind of think of it just any traditional sport. I used to play football for a little bit. That didn't last long, as you can see by my stature.
That is a funny thought.
But like, I used to play music. I don't really play it as much anymore. Now I do what I do. We always move on in our lives to something else, and we do have to leave something behind every once in a
Yep,
while.
when you love something so much, you always find a way to get back to it.
Exactly. So we'll see how that works out in the battle. We'll see how this works out for Rival in the future. But let's look at the maps right now, because the map order is incredibly important. Starting with Mines, then Ruinberg, Prague, Himmelsdorf, and Mines is our tiebreaker.
Yep, well, Ruinberg is actually one of Rival's worst maps on the season. They're 0-3 on it so far, and 2 of those losses on Ruinberg are defenses, so there's something to be said there about that. And then Prokhorovka is also Valence's most played map so far this season, but they've only won 2 rounds out of 6. So 2 maps, and to be fair, these teams are struggling on pretty much all of the maps, or they wouldn't be in 7th and 8th place right now.
This is fair. I do agree with that, but historically, Rival has performed well on Prokhorovka. They're the ones who started the up and over strat, where you just go right over the middle at the start, engage before your opponent has a chance to do anything about it.
Yep, well, let's see if Rival can do anything about it as we head into our first battle of the night.
Mines, a small summertime map with lots of hills, rocks and other cover. The teams start the battle in the usual locations, but the base locations are different. One is located in the bottom part of the village, and the other one is in the water. One of the key objectives is the center hill. That's why the teams will often select fast vehicles and tanks with strong turrets for cover.
Lineups coming in, 2 IS-4s, 3 Batchats, a TVP, and a Lorraine 155-51 coming out for Valence. Rival, 2 113s, a Batchat, 2 TVPs, and 2 Tier 9 Batchats while they are attacking.
Well, that Artie choice is certainly curious to me. I'm not sure if that's going to work out. Does the Lorraine have the Arch?
No, it actually has a lower arch than the M4043, but it has a faster rate of fire.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. It's going to have some trouble maybe performing, but we do have some damage in the open. TVP from Zone Delta goes for some early shots, but is taken down to half hit points. The IS-4 of Lost is being boosted to the middle. Spooky.
The IS-4s are just going to go for it. They're just going for these 113s. They're isolated. They're just going to push over with the weight.
And they're going to try and focus on these 113, see if they can take them down, but they will be in the low ground.
And the ammo rack comes out onto flak.
That's one way to finish off your first tank. Second tank to go down will be Zakum, but will the reply be there from Rival? They're coming off of the hill only now.
And they're going for Zone Delta. He's isolated. He's on the backside.
Not really. It's a 1v1, really. Commander J is not in a good position against this, and it's a spread. Every single tank is... Rival did not respond appropriately here. They're split up. They're not on the same page. Tanks went different directions off the mountain, and so Executus is still on the hill. It's not good.
Guns are back together though for Valence. They have their IS-4s still with most of their HP. The Batchats are trying to regroup so they don't get caught out and isolated.
And Artie is just about to zero in on a known one on the hill. The problem with Rival's current position is they don't have much safety from Artie. Shell goes out, not in time, and Executus is only going to take a little splash damage as Rival's going to try to escape. Now, hit points. We can talk about those. 4,500 versus 5,800. But with IS-4s, you're going to bounce some shells against
if
that.
you notice, Rival pretty much ignored the IS-4s because they knew, especially with these Batchats, they were going to be hard to kill. And those heat shells out of the TVPs that they're going to be firing also struggle a good bit. So they had no choice but to go after the other Batchats and chase them down, and these IS-4s just kept driving forward and pumping out shots.
Yeah, and now the Rival has got themselves stuck out in the open, exposed underneath the hill. Artie's got shots on him, but Urte's not going to be able to make a hit with that one. And Rival's going to have to stay in motion if they want to try and do anything with this. So
are Rival going to go for a cap fast right now?
No. You can't go for a cap fast. There's no way they're going to do that. They're going into the low ground because they know their opponent's on the mountain, right? They know that Valence has the hill. Now, the hill position on Mines doesn't get to influence the far west quite as well as other positions on the map, right? From the hill, the west side of the map is your best option. There's nowhere else on the map that Rival can retreat to, try and regroup, control, and have any real success. If they were in the north, they would be getting ripped apart. If they were in the east right now, they would already be dead. If they tried to go towards the far south, that's not going to work.
Yeah, well,
so
the problem is
west,
right now
west
is
is the only thing that remains.
Oh, but what options do Rival have even in the west? They put some cap pressure. The IS-4 sitting on top of that cap already ready to light them, and they have a Lorraine 155 to sit there and splash cap, and he's already moving all the way up towards the north.
Which credit to Valence. I liked seeing that. That's a strong response. That's exactly what you do in this scenario. You know, okay, Artie doesn't need to be in the southeast anymore. I don't leave an artillery piece in one spot. We're going to use the mobility of this tank to our advantage instead of wasting that. Because if you weren't thinking that Lorraine's going to move, you should have brought something like an M4043, right? There's other options for you that are probably better with and more effective on mines that have less mobility. But you need to use that mobility. Urtai, a player who's been in this game since as long as I can remember, I competed with him way back in the day in Ural Steel.
Yep, he's been around for a long time, the Swede, and I've also had the chance to play with him a couple times, and he's just very, very smart. He knows all of these little details and nuances that you just often don't think about.
Yeah, actually, I like that you use the word smart. It's a very simple phrase to describe him, but it's spot on. He doesn't ever come off as arrogant. He's never a person who kind of just says things to come off as intelligent or as if he's knowing. He doesn't just win an argument to win an argument. If he thinks something's wrong, he calls it out. If you give him a valid response and he accepts the answer, he actually is just totally cool with that.
You tell him to do something as a caller, he does it. He'll say, I don't think this is a good idea because this, but we'll go ahead and do it. He does it. He doesn't hesitate. And then afterwards, he's one of those people who can sit down and have a rational discussion, something that a lot of people tend to struggle with.
Exactly. I liked that one on teams I was on, where I would be like, okay,
Did they really do this?
No. Yes, they did. That's Urtai making the jump.
The 155 is up on the boost on the 0 line.
Yep.
Well, on defense, on mines.
Oh, yes. And Unknown One, by the way, in the meantime, gets himself exposed, spotted, takes a little damage. The Lorraine struggles with an arch. Now, what does this do for him to be on a high ground?
Well, it changes the angle and the trajectory of the shell altogether. So, on top of that, he has a very high rate of fire right now. Well, high rate of fire for an artillery. Let me rephrase that. So he can potentially find a shot onto Unknown One.
And he's actually going for Tesla right now. Zeroing in, shot out, and a hit for 553.
Yep. Now he's lucky that wasn't an M53-55 or an M40-43, the Tier 8, but the Tier 8 could not do that climb and get that angle that he just had.
Oh, yeah. That definitely wouldn't have happened there. So this is the reason you bring this tank. Large, light, fast French artillery piece, low arch, high fire rate. I have one myself, and I enjoy playing it, but I do find that you struggle if you don't have a team that can give you space to work with. Well, you need to be able to move around the map because you find angles.
Well, exactly. The strong suit of all the French arty is its mobility. It can flex around even the 55 and the 58, the Tier 9s and 10s. Their strong suit isn't that they do a whole lot of damage or that they have some insane feature. It's just that they are fast and they can open up new angles onto different things. So as long as you have a team that's working with you, they can really be effective.
Yeah, so what you do is with Lorraine is, I guess, then start the battle, maybe post up somewhere near the base so you can get early damage out.
You do exactly what Valence did. You start off with one shot, you look for it, how you can be effective, and then once the battle progresses, you don't stay in that same spot like we see a lot of artillery players do. Not just in competitive play, but even in pub matches or clan wars, wherever. Artillery players, a lot of the time, tend to just sit in one spot just because they think they have some shots. And then when they lose their shots, sometimes they don't really know what to do. They don't want to leave. They don't want to move. They don't want to re-aim. And so they just sit there waiting for a shot.
Yeah, because you're sitting there and you're like, okay, this guy will peek out around the corner in just a second, and then I'll be able to shoot him.
Or you can be...
Just 1 second. Just wait one more, and then he never pokes out.
Yep, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Or you can do what the Lorraine did and go find your shot, and he snaps one off, and he gets it! Blind onto Unknown One.
It's almost like half reticle. He was not quite aimed in. Chances were he was going to miss, but you know what? Go for it. And this is something we've talked about on previous broadcasts with an artillery, which is, okay, the tank that was spotted a moment ago is not spotted. He's invisible. I can't see him if I try. But here's the attack now. Sorry to jump off of that. There goes Tesla. Executus is the only one that remains, and he's only got a few moments to live.
Yep, and Executus is just going to drive straight in at G-Forcer with a full clip and try to kill him. Instead, he finds Static, the softer target. He's going to empty his clip into him, but Static's going to take the final shot and put him down.
All right, well, Rival starts off this battle, quite poorly for them. Valence, I think, played this excellently. They won with tank choices as well. I think the IS-4 is a strong pick for them against the lineup, the lighter, faster lineup of Rival. Rival lost control of the hill. Their response to Valence's attack could have worked However, I think that we can all agree that they were not coordinated in their response.
Well, another thing that I think plays in here is if you go back and you watch a lot of the replays from teams playing Mines, which we haven't seen on broadcast a lot, but on the offline broadcast matches.
Yes.
Or non-broadcast match anyways.
Yeah.
Something that's been a trend on Mines this season is taking heavy tanks and putting them over towards the 8 line and the 7 line and using them to counter out the 9 line boost. Get a tank up there that can spot and not be killed easily so he doesn't get isolated. And then have guns cover him, and that allows you to stay defensive on Mines because you have that 0 line neutralized. And so they bring this lineup with 2 IS-4s with screams, hey, we're going to worry about the 9 line and sit back. And instead, they take 2 IS-4s, which are not tanks that you commonly think are offensive tanks, and they drive straight at them.
Yeah, and what you notice is that Valence does something which is important to note, which is use your lighter, faster tanks to push the IS-4s up the middle. You need to get them there as quickly as you can. Every moment counts, and you saw how that worked in their favor because the IS-4s are just so big and disruptive that Rival, I'm pretty sure a few guys just were like, no, I'm not going down there with IS-4s. I'm going to get torn apart.
Yep, and the difference here, some teams have been trying on some of these maps to bring mouses instead of bringing IS-4s. They bring mouses because they have a lot of HP, and their mouses are supposed to be highly armored. The thing is that the armor on them tends to be negated by a lot of the gold shells and the higher pen, larger caliber guns.
Yeah, but the IS-4 does have the spaced armor.
And it has all these tricky angles as well, and people aren't necessarily sure where to shoot it. And if you have
even if
anyone
you're not,
on
even
the
if
second
you are
page,
sure, but
yeah.
even if you are sure about an IS-4 and where to shoot it, the areas that you have that are options for you are rather thin. So even if you know where to fire at the right time, because of all those angles, because of how small the windows are to hit, you're going to bounce 1 or 2 shells that you otherwise shouldn't have as a high-level player, and that could be the difference between a win or a loss.
Yep. And on a side note there, if the people were paying attention looking at the scoreboard, if you saw on the far right column, we had the fantasy points that all these players were going to be getting, and I instantly regret my choice of picking my friend G-Forcer because he was the lowest statted player on
It's
Valence.
just Battle 1. Battle 1.
But still only 40 points. Doesn't make me feel too good.
Just Battle 1.
Come on, buddy.
Come on.
Pick it up.
This is Valence Rival. Chances are this is going to be a longer series as we get into Mines of Battle 2. Rival is going to be on defense.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about how Rival are a team that kind of hit momentum later in the season. They start off slow and then they pick up speed. And yeah, I guess the analogy you could use to talk about that is they find the set of keys to their car halfway through the season and then they get it going. It just feels like the car is out of gas right now. They have the keys, but there's just nothing left in the tank.
What about this one? What if it was a parking brake? And have you ever left the parking brake on your car and just taken a lap around and just realized, why is my car not going? And then just
I'm not that forgetful because I'm not that old. So
it doesn't happen to me that often, but just it has happened.
It's okay, Randall.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Maybe you're not one of those people that ever does that with a parking brake, but you know what's happening.
And Rival are just going for the hill. Lineups, an IS-7, 4 Bat Chats, and 2 T10s. Meanwhile, Valence coming in with a 113, a Kronwagen, 3 Bat Chats, a Grill, and a Lorraine 155 once again.
All right, and Lorraine is loaded, zeroing on the middle of the map.
And I like this out of Rival. They're sitting in an already safe spot. They're making sure that Urtai doesn't have a shot like this, and he's going to snap it off. It doesn't look like he got a connection.
No connection? Okay. Well, that's lucky for Jay Smooth. He did not realize that the timing of him leaving his cover was just about perfect. And I think Urtai could have done a little bit of a better job putting that damage on target. He could have let his shell out sooner. He could have predicted that Jay Smooth was going to go there a little sooner. So Urtai, not quite sure what his opponent's going to do. At least that's what I'm reading into right now based on the way Rival's playing. Valence doesn't have a confident idea of exactly what Rival's going to bring to this. Would you say that as well?
I would agree with that. And it looks still like a scattered response almost from Rival as they're finally realizing they need to group up and they're getting towards this kilo line where they can really get this reset, because right now their only option is to drive these heavy tanks straight up and over on top of G-Forcer, which is exactly what Valence want. They have guns in position ready to punish them and they come over.
Exactly. Now, we are going to see how Valence responds to the counterattack, because now I see the Bat Chats moving in. We've got Executus, Tesla, Commander J all moving around the south side of the map. Tesla has lost 1,097 to pay the toll in order to get into this engagement. So just to get here, just to meet Valence face-to-face, they paid over 1,000 hit points. They are able to put damage on target. Viral down by 70 to 78. One more hit. He should go down, and that's going to be it. That's the kill that Rival needed to get in this
fight. And now Static's going to be focused out next. He's a one-shotter, and it looks like Executus is going to come around the corner, but J Smooth actually puts a shot into Executus for his trouble.
He simped it. Got to watch out. You have to watch your lanes of fire, and you have to watch out who's going to cross in
Simple
front of it.
tankers simping a shot. You gotta wonder where that came from.
Yeah, well, that comes from Simp the Clan. For those of you guys who haven't been around super long, Simp used to be a dominant team, and, well, we have a term named after them, and that's getting in front of someone's shot.
Yep, and Rival coming out the better of those trades. They have 2 extra guns alive that Valence don't, and the HP is up by about 2,700 in favor of Rival.
Now, Valence does have some options. The Kronwagen is at full health. They've got Urtai still on the battlefield. Artie can make a difference. All he has to do is land 1 or 2 crucial shells that could change the whole battle.
And Blitzwolf just smacks Executus in the face and puts him down, and now J-Smooth is about to go down as well, and this could be a tied series.
Yeah, that's it. J-Smooth taking a hit from Urtai. Didn't quite kill him, but that's enough to the point where Blitz or someone else can deal with him. Now the heavies in the middle of the map from Rival are pushing forward on the Kronwagen. Looks like Spooky. We're going to have to pay attention to his performance later. He's going to be able to do plenty of damage, forcing Rival to pay quite heavily in order to just kind of even bully Valence.
And look,
oh, look at this! Look at Fleck! He just jumps right up and over. Oh, he's going to actually try and kill Zone Delta by standing on top of his tank. There's a just rapid damage stocks up for both players, and whoever dies first is going to... Oh, there we go. He
and this works out for Zone Delta because he has the gun depression.
No, it doesn't.
But Flag gets reloaded first.
Oh, he was holding that shell, just waiting for it. So the minute he gets kicked off, that is the exact moment that Flag gets to put a shot on target. And if not, if he sticks on top of the Kronwagen, it's a 1-for-1 trade.
This is a 2v4, and G's going to push over and misses the shot. Flag missed as well. No team connecting a shot. Now, remember, Valence do have Urtai in that already in the backfield. He's going to be loaded. And G-Forcer gets the ram on Flak, looks for the shot, misses the shot on the unknown one, and now G is in a bad position. He's trying to close.
He knows it should be over at this point, but he does have a chance to get this. If he can
Tesla's
just stay alive.
Tesla's behind him in the back chat, and she's going to be able to fire off some shots into G. And now one's going to go down.
There he goes. Tesla right into the back of the turret. That's going to be it. It's only a moment. Urtai shouldn't be able to clutch this into Lorraine. That would be silly, right?
Mm-hmm. This would be a huge misplay by Rival to throw this one.
Yeah, for a moment I was like, wait, is this reload there? No, it's not quite there. Urtai's not going to even be loaded in time. Sweet jump.
Well, it looks like Rival remembered to turn off their parking brake this game, and that's going to tie up the series 1-1.
Well played. Rival able to do something in this series. This is good for them. That's going to be their 4th battle win of the season so far. They've been really struggling, so them actually showing up like this was good. I think Battle 1, the reason... thinking back in hindsight, the reason that it went so slowly, because Battle 1 went so slow after Rival was able to get away from Valence's tanks in the middle.
Well, and
once
part of
that happened, they just slowed it down. They wasted, 5 minutes just dancing around? That was talking about the next battle, right?
Yeah, well, they're talking about the next battle, and it's also them maybe trying to find a way in still. I mean, it's hard, but when you have 3 batch shots, you can't count anything out.
Yeah.
And Valence also didn't chase them down. Valence could have forced the issue. They had the tanks to do it. Mm-hmm. But they said, look, we're defending. We're just going to sit here. We have 2 IS-4s. We have control of both caps. We don't need to chase you. So I think it's a combination of both. Rival waiting for a second to make sure that they were ready for the next battle.
You mentioned this before, but now that we're looking at the post-battle stats, actually, you notice we've added accuracy to our lineup. Now you can see that Flak fired 100% of the shots fired.
You landed 100% of the shots fired.
Yeah, I should have said. I looked for a moment. I was like, oh yeah, actually, you don't have shots fired. You only have kills accuracy. And then the fantasy adjustment. That's how many fantasy points they added to their current points total. Correct?
Yep.
And so it'll just be added up at the end of the night. Trying to give you guys a little bit of a preview here, so that we can get an idea of exactly how impactful their performance was. You can see the damage. Yes, 1,000 damage is normal for a battle, right? But what does that mean? How much does that weigh in the grand scheme of things? And it's nice to have the fantasy points. I feel like it kind of helps quantify everything. Right.
No, definitely. It just gives you a rough ballpark of how they did. Just one number. He got 125 fantasy points. Not bad. But one thing to look at here is the next map is going to be Ruinberg, and we're going to start off with watching Rival defend, which is something that they've really struggled at so far.
Yeah, and we're going to see how that goes on battle number 3.
Runeberg, a mixed-type map. The defending team starts the battle on the green, and the attacking team starts at the centre square of the town. Bases are located quite far from each other. Both bases are better controlled from the village when playing a heavy setup. It's better to attack the first base through the top direction with the help of several well-armoured heavy tanks. For the attack on the second base, it's better to use a more mobile setup and either play through the centre or split forces. In general, the map is not easy to play on. Teams often use blind shots and risky shifting of the forces from one flank to another.
The series is tied 1-1. Lineups are in. Valence, a 113, a 50B, a Batchat, two Batchats, a TVP, a Grill, and a T54 lightweight. Meanwhile, Rival, a 113, 350Bs, an IS-7, a Batchat, and a 1390.
All right, nothing crazy here. We'll see how they play it out. I see east side from Rival, the opening moves right there. Splitting their 1390, unknown one. He's gone all the way to the north to sit passive and cover the base from the west, making sure that...
And Urtai getting lit up, 1,000!
No. You don't need that. You do not want this. This is bad. Urtai get to cover. If he can do that, maybe he can salvage this battle for himself, but if not, that is a huge blow to Rival. They need this T-54 lightweight. They need this Tier 8 to stay alive, just so he can get some scouting. And you can see how that slows Valence down.
Yep, and look at this play. Flak going to go ahead and push down the zero line now, waiting to make sure that Valence have committed to the south. They know that they have most of their tanks down here, so he's going to get down there and get tucked into that corner. However, he's going to take 654 damage for the troubles.
Pay the toll, pay the toll. Now let's see what Valence is thinking. As their strategy has been disrupted, they have to figure out what to do next.
The TVP can probably play mid here.
I cannot get out from here, so I'm just going to stay passive.
You're fine. I just need you to peek if they push you. I get a 50B clip on it. It's going to be 113 north static and a 90.
Yep. 7
unless we made them fight,
no shots on that.
Move the 113 out. Which might
Here,
be
join a blind fire mid.
Peeks over, Spook. Static,
Yeah.
wait. Oh, fuck.
290.
Okay. Yeah, shots? You wait, just push. You should have kept pushing, so I had south.
Oh, I missed the 90.
I got spotted. Fuck.
I got lit as well.
They're going to push
They
that
might,
south.
yeah. They might look at least. 7 is aggressing really hard. 50, he's sitting on top.
Yeah.
Static's running. We should probably rotate back south.
We should probably get out.
We can probably push mid, actually. Grill, come mid. You think we can push mid?
We gotta get this IS-7 out. He's gonna farm us.
7's tracked.
You gotta hit the shots.
We don't know where the 50s are at the moment.
Okay, fuck it. Static, let's go back down.
Yeah,
Grill, come here. My TVP, you just gotta... Viral, you gotta do you. Talk to...
We get 1,000 damage.
I'm dumping a clip.
Ooh, I'm gonna get in here. Grill, stay. You need to stay back here, probably.
Stay? Where do you want me watching?
You gotta talk with Viral. You two gotta talk.
Okay.
Okay,
I can shoot HG.
Stay here. Blind fire at this mid road a little bit.
Okay.
There's a 50B right in front of me. There's a 50B. There's a 50B.
I'm gonna
Cover
start
me from
aggressive
here. I
a
need
little
cover from here. I need cover from here.
Is he pushing you? No?
No, he's running away.
Okay.
Viral,
we get any punish on that?
Take mid.
No, because their 50B is looking down it.
7 is up again.
Clipping.
Viral, ready to have
No
shots on him.
shot.
Commander J taking a lot of damage. Trying to get a little bit aggressive there for Rival. Maybe try to find the kill shot onto Urtai, I think was the original idea. But he got cut off by G-Forcer and Zone Delta, and he's choosing to retreat right now.
He's going to be safe and sound for a little bit, but unfortunately a 50B, that low of health, 409, chances are the next shell he takes is going to take him down. That's not good for him. You need to be healthier, and I think we can agree. Commander J was a little aggressive there.
Yeah, well, he was aggressive, and what he was trying to do is he was trying to work that 6 line and find the additional angle onto Urtai. They knew that Flak and the I-7 had this bottom corner of that 0 line, so we had that angle covered, which only left one place for Urtai to stay safe, and that's what Commander J was trying to find, that last angle.
Yeah. He was looking for it, not quite able to find it. Got to give it to Valence, keeping the perimeter secure. You want to make sure that there's no little back entrance that the team's going to sneak through, and all of a sudden you're going to be flanked. So Commander J could have been successful.
Are they going to go with a mid push?
That makes a lot of sense. You've got the cover fire from the west, all those bat chats and TVPs, Grill, and then you move a 113 with G-Forcer up the middle. Of course, this should do fairly well.
Static's going to go up to the ledge. He's going to take 332 and get in there, and he's going to back out just slowly, looking for a shot on the Commander J.
Yeah, Commander J squaring off now against G-Forcer. And shots fired, 392, a slightly low roll, and one more should be able to finish him off. That should be coming from Static in a moment. but it's a bit risky for him to go for. And it's going to stall for a moment. That's going to be a G-Forcer probably will just take the shell, peek around, and get the kill. That's my expectation here. He should go for that.
Can he shoot through that window on the right?
Not quite. The angle on it, because of the height of the wall on the side, he actually doesn't have the height, and that's going to be it. So reverse angling right there.
And I will gladly take those fantasy points. Thank you, G-Forcer.
Oh, yes. Now, let's see what Valence goes for next. They've taken down a 50B. That is a major damage dealer for Rival. Rival does have a number of dangerous tanks still on the battlefield, so they have to worry about those. And they can't get too aggressive yet, because it is still possible for Rival to just delete a tank, right? They need to just get right into the face of Rival, and they should be able to force them to do what they need.
Yep, an unknown one may stumble across Zone Delta, but Zone Delta is on reload.
Yeah, and then also remember, just to remind you, Urtai is still pinned. He's been stuck in the exact same bush, passive, for the past 6 minutes almost. After that early, almost all of his health getting deleted in the battle, he just said, I'm sticking here, I'm not getting spotted, I can't afford, I need to try and salvage myself. If I do something aggressive, I'm just going to go down, I know this. So
he's essentially become a tripwire, though. Not necessarily intentionally, but he's the only tank down there at this point, and he has eyes on Flak, or he'll know if Flak's rotating out. So there isn't a... If he leaves, he's going to get spotted because he's going to move out of his bush cover and into the open, where one of those tanks will spot him, and he's going to go down. This way, at least they know that the tanks haven't left the bottom, which...
An option Valence does have, sorry to cut you off, is they do have the option of moving some of their tanks back east and getting Urtai out. You just cover his position, do something to kind of get some spotting, maybe create some distraction or verify that it's safe for him to leave, and then Urtai leaves. And if anything fires at him, you make sure you're prepared to deal with that.
We're actually going to see a push out of the mid.
Okay. A bit late in the game, too. Usually this would not work at all, but I don't see Valence paying much at all in hit points to take the middle of the map, where normally this kind of a push would be costly just to get half the distance.
Well, they're going to isolate, by doing this, they're going to isolate Tesla and Flak in the south, and that could be 2 kills, essentially, for Valence right now.
It should be 2 kills. If they're able to execute, Executus goes down. Strong play right there. Now Tesla's job is to deal as much damage as he can before he goes down. Not able to deal enough. And J Smooth is not able to force enough damage onto Valence either. I think the big criticism I have for Rival right now is they're just not able to get the damage on target, not focused on anything. And as you see, the damage is spread across a few tanks on Valence, when maybe we could have seen some focus fire, but it's not gonna matter. Valence is on top of it. They're working as a team. I'm seeing the coordination. I'm seeing the team play, and it's paying off.
And so often we say that to lose a Ruinberg defense, you have to make mistakes, and it's really up to the other team to just capitalize on those to get the win. Where did Rival go wrong this game?
Rival spread out. They did not aggress when possibly they could have, and it felt like they let their opponent pick them apart piece by piece. Because Valence just found an angle, took a tank. They found another angle, and then they took a tank down. And then they found where all of the tanks just about were for Rival, and Rival didn't do anything to deal with that. Your opponent's gathering information, and then they're going to attack. Yep. One of the things that you do is, well, when your opponent decides, I'm going to scout you out, okay, they found out our positions. Let's shift. Let's change our positions.
Well, and even though it was late in the game, I really liked that push from Valence. They grouped up. They used the little angles where they knew that Rival weren't working, and they got right in on top of them, right into the Delta Village, and by pushing up there together, they isolated 2 tanks.
That they did. Now, looking at the post-game stats.
Yep. We have Spooky coming in here with 3,500 damage and doing fairly well there, but he didn't pick up any kills, so only translating to 40 fantasy points. Viral, though, had the same amount of damage and 2 kills, got almost twice as many fantasy points.
I see how that all adds up. But accuracy. I'm seeing 57 out of Executus. That's kind of low, but then you notice, like, the 50B of Commander J gets 100%. That's unfortunate.
And then poor Urtai down there on the bottom.
He
still gets 13 fantasy points just for driving his tank around, apparently.
Hey, he did get spotting and also spotting damage. You'll notice that. The IS-7 that he spotted in the southeast, that was responsible for him taking as much damage as he had, lost about half of his health. So...
Yep. Well, he was the one that did spot Flak pushing down. He was the closest one to him. And so it's going to be the spotting damage onto that I-7 that he's going to get.
Exactly. So Actually, this is one that we should focus on. I liked seeing this. G-Forcer showing why he's a heavy tank expert. He knew exactly what to do. Oh, 50B's waiting for me to go around a corner. Pop that nose right into the wall. Back it up. Make it so the side armor is so sharply angled that nothing can bounce. Everything's going to either go straight into spaced armor, lose its penetration before it hits the next plate of armor, or it's just going to bounce right off like a stone skipping across water.
Yep, exactly. And it was also Commander J, I guess you could say, trying to get greedy to get that kill down onto Urtai, so he stuck his neck out. He took a lot of damage, and then Static moving up in that middle road really boxed Commander J in with no options. So at that point,
it's a risk reward.
He couldn't. G-Forcer could just side scrape there and get the shot off. There was nothing for Commander J to do. He either sat there, tried to kill G-Forcer, hoped maybe for a lucky track to where G couldn't kill him, or he had to back up and risk the Batchet shooting him, which is what ended up boxing him in. And looking at this, Rival are attacking, bringing 2 50Bs, 2 Mouses, 2 Batchets, and a Udis, which I already can see where this is going. We'll get to that in a second. Valence, a 113, 2 50Bs, a 215B, a Batchet AP, and an Object 430 V2.
Why the V2, do you think, sir?
The V2, they'll use that probably as a passive scout. Has a very high camo value.
Oh, also
can also shoot very far.
Alpha 7, right? He can defend the north cap very easily, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I seem to remember...
I've seen teams put him down the 0 line because it has good frontal armor. He can sit there in the hold down and get shots off towards the mid. Now, the one thing to look at, people are going to be wondering why the Udis. And the thing to remember about it is it has a very, very low profile. So if you were to stick it on cap, say behind the mouse... I don't think the other team could do anything about it. They're actually going to use Static in the north. Use him just to kind of play this hold down.
I'll point out he has a vertical stabilizer. He has coded optics and then also a rammer. So he has a faster reload. He's going to be more stable moving around, which is just about standard. But then he brings optics. And the reason he's doing that is because he's not playing just a medium tank. He's playing kind of that scouty medium tank. Something that I like to do a lot, where you're just mobile enough that you can scout things out. You can get the vision your team needs, but you're not quite scouty enough. You don't have the vision range in order to outspot opponents, because what happens is, based on a certain value of your spotting range, it's measured in meters, your opponent has a certain camo value, and that works against your spotting. So the further you see, the better your opponent's camo has to be in order for you not to spot them. And also note that in the first-person view I'm following on the Object 430, his turret is the only thing poking out, and that's only barely. You don't quite realize how the terrain is dynamic.
The other thing he'll have heat shells out of that Russian gun that will go right through the cheeks of that mouse turret.
It's also an important note, because those mice, even though they're going to be there just to block the cap, they do have reasonable armor. If you don't respect it, you're going to have some problems. And if you also don't realize, I need to actually deal the damage to these guys, because if I don't, I'm going to try to ignore them, deal with the Udes, which is Zaku currently moving in behind the mice. If I can't deal with these and that tank, I'm going to lose. But I have to deal with the mice first.
So something that a lot of teams have figured out to do in these sort of situations is fire HE at objects around the tank that's hidden, and they get the splash damage onto the Udes. That Udes is so low, I don't know that there's anywhere they can even splash to get the reset on them.
All right, well, let's actually listen in on what Rival's planning to do, what their response will be, and how this is going to go as they attempt to cap fast on Ruinberg.
I didn't keep incoming fire, do you think?
I haven't been lit yet.
I think it is. Batchet AP?
Oh.
Gotta be careful, there's probably more.
There's one.
113 around. Wow.
$50 over there as well.
Exec, do you have any ammo?
Okay, we just need to make sure they don't come from here, because
Exec, is your mic on?
is where we cap this, and they have to push in somewhere.
I'm up.
Nice. Static's a one shot as well.
50B coming in lost. Viral.
I don't think
we're
anyone's
on
got
reload
shells.
right now, but this is fine.
Loading. Stay up unknown. Yep.
And that's going to be a reset. Udes gets reset, one mouse down, second one going. I think we noticed from Rival's comms you could say that they were clean, you could say that they were organized, but they also seemed to be under-communicating is the main point I took away from that.
There wasn't a whole lot of info going back and forth. It also kind of seemed like there just wasn't any momentum, like they weren't excited, like they were almost falling asleep with their keyboard to a certain extent.
It was kind of like the kind of energy a team has when they do care, they want to play, but it doesn't feel like there's that central driving force. There's no one who's like, all right, guys, we're going to show up, blow up today, we're going to wreck these guys, it's going to be amazing, Valence doesn't stand a chance. That wasn't the kind of team this was before the battle. The kind of team that Rival showed up today probably was, all right, guys, you ready for the match? Yeah, I feel all right. Yeah, you feel all right? I feel all right. And nothing crazy. I don't think this day started for Rival in a way that gave them a winning attitude, that you'd call it, because most people would be like, a winning attitude is just amped, they're aggressive, they're focused.
Yep. Well, Rivals,
didn't get a lot of
Rivals' defensive struggles, or just struggles in general on Ruinberg, are going to continue because that's 0-2 on Ruinberg after going 1-1 on Mines. So they definitely need to go back to the drawing board. Now I can see what they were doing with that strat. The problem is that was basically 3 tanks they had to commit to get that cap pressure going that really couldn't do much damage, and they gave up essentially 2 of them without doing really any damage. J-Smooth, the one out in front, just went down for not doing any damage because it wasn't his job. It was just, I want to be here, I want to be a wall. And then the Udis, Zach, was never going to get off any shots from that position because he can't shoot over the mouse. So that's 2 guns right there. At least 5 left on the battlefield for you to, defend the rest of the tanks coming at you to get those resets, and they just couldn't put out enough damage.
Yeah, that's always my criticism of trying to cap fast on Ruinberg is you do need to actually give your opponent something different to deal with. If they only have the cap to focus on, they're going to successfully defend the cap. If they have to worry about something else going on, then your cap fast usually works. That's when it happens. When you attack from like the middle road along the F line in the map, so you go down to the south, you come around from the south flank of your opponent, and then, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of tanks over here as well, we have to deal with those, and that distraction is enough to kill the time that you get your cap fast, but that didn't happen here.
Yep, and looking at the fantasy points here, Viral coming up there doing pretty good, but Lost getting the extra kill and the 92% hit rate, 128 fantasy points, not bad there. And then everything just kind of drops off. G-Forcer 2K, 60 fantasy points, not bad. J-Smooth actually managing to do 2,000 damage before going down. And then Zekum in the UDES only really able to do 441 damage, which out of the tier 8, once again, he was the cap pressure. So he was never in a position to really do damage. The fact that he got off that much damage to begin with kind of impresses me.
I think so. I think that's kind of the thing, because the UDES I thought was going to get almost 0 and be almost the same as a ton of other tanks we've actually seen before do the same exact deal.
Yep. Now, one other thing I want to point out is back in the last days of 754, I believe it was the Rumble in Europe between, I want to say it was Penta and one other team. The teams are slipping my mind. But what they did is they went with the cap fest where there was a guaranteed cap, essentially, where they didn't have to worry about doing damage because they used 3 Japanese tanks to shield the 2 1390s in against the cap. So even after they killed all the tanks in the field, they couldn't find kill shots onto those 1390s, and they managed to cap out.
Oh, interesting. All right, well, thank you for finishing that. We are about to get into battle number 5. Check it out.
Prokhorovka, one of the first maps in the game. Teams start at the regular spawn points as they do in standard battles. Bases are separated from each other by the railway, so the defending team has to choose whether to send their vehicles to the left side, playing them in the centre, or to the right of the railway, occupying the hill and a part of the village. The attacking team usually attacks the first base. However, the teams often go for face-to-face confrontations 7-on-7 in the hilly terrain at the centre. That's why both teams frequently use vehicles with good gun depression angles and sturdy turrets.
Lineups coming in here, we have an IS-7, a 430, 2 Batchats, a Grill 15, a Batchat AP, and an M5355 for Valence. Rival coming in, an IS-7, 3 Object 140s, 2 Batchats, and an RU-251.
Oh, is this the strat I know? I think it is. This might be the classic Rival mid-play on Prokhorovka.
Going back to what they know.
Exactly, and it probably could be a viable strat, I think, but there might have been a strong read from Rival. Notice that they did not aggress up and over the middle hill. This is probably due to the fact that Unknown One in the RU-251 is probably due to the fact that this guy did not spot enough tanks going to the middle to make it a viable option. If you don't spot anything in the middle, going up and over and trying to engage is going up and over, engaging on no tanks, and exposing yourself to possibly all of the guns of your opponent's team. So potentially a very unwise choice. Good audible call by Rival that might salvage them for this battle, but they are playing against an artillery piece, and there we see Zone Delta putting a good, what is that, 178 damage onto Flak.
Now, one thing I was watching Zone Delta do right there off feed was he was overlooking at the 789. He was looking at every single little fence, building, and tree and seeing if anything had been knocked over, trying to get intel without actually having any eyes over there.
Yeah, and that's why you bring an artillery piece. And a good arty player is going to do that. They're going to take the time that they're reloading, that they're trying to just wait for things to get spotted. And they're going to go search to see if a tree got knocked down in a very typical position, or if that one fence is destroyed that indicates there's someone hiding in a bush somewhere, looking for those trends, those things you're used to seeing time and time again. Random shot out goes towards, I think that was that Flak? No, that was the Object
Tesla.
140 Tesla. It didn't even go close. Just kind of let it go, which is kind of returning to that good old arty play of, hey, something spotted.
Commander J gets lit.
No. He got lit on the high ground, too. That's horrible for him. He was off in the west.
He's fortunate to not be dead right now.
Yeah, he very reasonably should, and that's only probably due to draw distance. The fact that a few of the tanks from Valence were just way too far south, like the Grill, Blitzwolf.
Yep. The thing is they still could have blind fired out of the render distance because he would be spotted on the map, and they should have the angle.
Possibly.
And it's a bat chat, so he doesn't have a whole lot of armor.
Yeah, but look at the distance that Blitzwolf would have had to cover with his shell. Chances are he may have fired, but even if the tank was spotted and he had draw, he probably would miss anyway at that range with this kind of terrain. Hardy shell out, J Smooth not.
And a miss. And, well, you probably would have missed. The one saying, remember, is you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So we'll never find out.
Exactly. Okay. That's a fair enough. So always just, you're reloaded and just fire again? That's your way of going about it in Arty?
When you're sitting back, there's no pressure. Arty or even a Grill. When you're sitting back that far, you know you have a small opportunity. You know that you have plenty of time. It's not going to come down to the game being won or lost in that moment. Take the shot, see if you get the damage, and hope it works out.
I think we might have some spotting. Unknown one. Able to see, it looks like Urtai and another Batchat Spooky as they transition from the mid and close to the east side of the map. If he's able to spot, and actually no, it's too late. Rivals already made their decision. They are going to be pushing forward. You do see on the mini-map the group of blue tanks pooling up around Charlie 2, Delta 2, and they're going to go for an attack? No? No? Are they holding? What is going on with
It looks like
Rival?
they're shifting over towards the other side of the map. Now, one thing to bring up here, we mentioned that Ruinberg has really been a map that Rival have struggled on. Well, Prokhorovka is a map that Valence have really struggled on this season. They've played it 6 times and only won twice so far.
We have damage being dealt onto Zakum. I don't like this. I do not like seeing this because that just shows that Rivals lost the element of surprise. I'm fairly certain Valence knows what's up. They know what's coming. Viral's taking some damage. And this is the beginning of the attack, and Executus takes all of his hit points of damage to start.
He got unlucky when he tracked and peeked there and just got shot by pretty much everyone. Now Zakum's just going to drive straight over, go right into the side of Zakum, look for the shots. He's actually going to skip shooting Zakum and go for Spooky in the Batchat, who's going to be the tank that they are all going to choose to focus out.
Yeah, this is over. At this point, not enough tanks from Rival were on target at the same time. There's a ammo rack to just kind of rub it in on.
Insult to injury.
Yeah, exactly. And Rival just wasn't on the same page for that one. Valence just had to let it come and deal with the issue as it would. They practically got him one at a time.
Yep. Now, I do like the play there out of Spooky, as little as it seems. He realized that he was the tank that Rival was trying to focus. All the guns were shooting at him, so he tried to kite himself away from the rest of the fight, try to get to cover, and kind of disrupt it and make them struggle to find more shots on him or on any of the other tanks.
Made himself as difficult a target as possible.
Didn't worry about putting off damage, but he just, all right, they're all shooting at me, I'm going to make this hard.
Yeah, and everyone else on the team at the same time, I did notice from Valence, they realized, I'm not getting focused, I'm not a target. Nice jump over the tracks there from Unknown One. He's not a target, just get out of the way, you know?
Yep. And I will say that Rival have had some very stylish finishes so far this season, despite not getting a lot of wins.
Yeah, that's going to be battle number 4 for Valence. Match point. One more win, they're going to take this one away. And, well, I guess Rival is not quite getting into gear yet. They're still just not ready
like
for it.
Like I said, I just don't know how much gas is left in the tank at this point.
I think that's probably it, man. It's they're either running out of gas or the parking brake is still on because there's something holding them back because the players are worth it. Yep. You saw Unknown One, or you see the way that any of them finish a battle. You can tell that the skill is there, and you can tell that that Valence respects that. But what the problem is that at the opening portion of the battle, Rival just isn't on the same page. They don't really seem to be focused on what they're going to do, and they seem to shy away from attacks that they should have just gone for.
Yep, well, listen to this.
What?
Offline score.
Oh.
Not this. This is a replay from last game, but the offline score. Deja Vu versus Eclipse. Take a guess at the score right now.
Deja Vu up 2-1?
2-0.
2-0 for Deja Vu?
For Deja Vu.
Really? That's one we're going to have to check out in a bit.
Deja Vu, they're in second place right now, and they've played pretty well so far this season. Eclipse have had more struggles than they have. So we'll have to see what happens there. Definitely a series to keep your eye on.
Yeah, and the Aquatic M60s versus Apex match at the same time is currently on 2-up for Apex, starting on Pro Hook, just like on here. So, looks like both matches going. We're going to have to see how those go a little later on, but the post-battle stats.
Viral's really been doing a lot in terms of damage and fantasy points so far today. So anyone that picked him, you're going to have a good match day, but I don't know that that's going to be a pick that a lot of people have had. I think a lot of people, if they picked anyone from this match, either went with Commander J or Spooky. He seems to be two of their favorite picks.
Yeah, Spooky is always a solid choice. Commander J, a little hit and miss, but he is reliable.
In seasons past, Commander J has always been a very solid pick, especially when he first joined Rival. He jumped over from what was then Noble and joined Rival, and they had this surge where they started playing really well, and that's when they were really challenging Noble and Eclipse for that first, second, third place, and high voltage koalas when they were still a thing, and they really looked like a force to be reckoned with. And then seasons since, they've just kind of dropped off, and they haven't had that same sort of momentum.
Yeah, and that does happen from time to time. Usually there's one or two teams that just, also by contrast to the other teams in the league, there's only 8 of them, that looks much worse than everyone else, right? Remember, this is an incredibly small pool of teams, and so the worst team in the league, Rival right now, is going to look that much worse because of that contrast. So even so, a team like Rival, the performance they're putting on, would stand up against a lot of perhaps the silver teams, for example, like that. They're still above that threshold. If you wanted to kind of, I realize we've been talking a lot about Rival and that they haven't been performing so far in this match, but I do want to kind of put in perspective that their performance is below that of Valence, but they are still standing above a performance of what I would expect out of the league below gold, which is silver.
Yep. Well, let's take a second to talk about Valence. They're a team that just came up into the gold league this season. They came up out of silver, formerly known as Good Game, and then they brought in 2 players from 07 last season. They brought back friends of GeForce and Urtai and picked up Static and Zone Delta. And so basically they had to start over at the start of the season or right during the off-season because Zone Delta's taken over as the main caller.
Yeah, and then Spooky is someone we should probably touch on because Spooky is a player that is the younger member of the team.
Yeah, I believe he's 15? 15 or 16. He's fairly young.
Yeah, 16 might be more accurate, but
yep.
I only think we have one player in the league that's maybe 15 years old, and I think that's one of our Russian. Yeah, one of our Russian players, I think.
Possibly one of the new ones, but I know Exits is fairly young as well.
Yeah, he is. But Spooky, to get back onto him, he's one of those players that's the young kid in the group, the one who was around when his voice hadn't quite dropped, and he had the energy, and he talks a lot, and he's really just...
He's eager.
He's eager. Oh, that is a perfect word for him. Eager is what he is. And he always performs, and he always goes onto the battlefield, just wastes everybody, but you don't get how he's so good because you talk to him and he doesn't get in depth about some aspects of the game as much as some of our older players that more experienced guys will talk about, but he just goes with it. He just lets his heart tell him what to do.
Well,
next.
His mindset is just, I don't really even care if this team wins or loses the game. I'm just going to do as much damage as I can and contribute in any way that I possibly can, and that's not necessarily a bad attitude to have.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It's actually one of the things that a lot of people forget. It's like, yes, I have to worry about playing as a member of the team, but I do have to worry about my own singular performance. I have to make sure that everything I do as a player is good as well. I just have to adjust that for the team environment that I'm in.
Yep. Now, we never actually went over the lineup to start of the game, so while the teams are sitting here trying to fill each other out, an IS-7, a 430, a Kronwagen, a Batchat, a TVP, a Grill, and an M40-43 for Valence. Bringing some heavy tanks. They have the Kronwagen, play the hold-downs, and the G-Forcer in the IS-7, also a great hold-down tank. Doesn't have a whole lot of gun depression, definitely not the 12 degrees that the Kronwagen brings, but enough. Meanwhile, looking over at Rival, they have a Kronwagen of their own, 4 Batchats, a Grill, and a Lorraine 155-51. So both teams opting for their artillery over, say, a Tier 8 Scout.
Yeah, and notice how Rival has not allowed themselves to get spotted all that much. They've stayed almost entirely on the 0 line, on the far east side of the map, and have not let themselves get spotted. J-Smooth, currently sitting in a passive position in the northeast portion of the map, is waiting around, trying to see if maybe someone from Valence will get eager and decide to go up and over into the east. If that happens, if a member of Valence decides to leave the rest of the team, he's going to get taken down pretty quick.
And the Grill 15 has actually already worked his way up all the way to A0. J-Smooth is actually going to leave the high ground, and Executus is going to sit up there and just have his shot ready to just smack A6 or even down in the middle at E6 if anyone from Valence pokes up and over.
Oh, that's going to hurt quite a bit. And I'm wondering, because I actually haven't seen a Grill up here in quite some time, if his camo is going to be sufficient to keep him hidden. So if Executus will get spotted for firing at a tank over the tracks.
He does have a camo net on.
That's a good note as well. I wanted to check that and make sure, because if he didn't have the camo net, for sure he's spotted.
Which, to be fair, there's not a whole lot of equipment options for a Grill. You have the gun rammer and you have the gun lane drive, but it doesn't have a vertical stabilizer and it doesn't have ventilation because it's an open top tank.
But you could decide to go with binoculars. That's
Binos
always a good
or coated optics.
Yeah, I think binos for a Grill, because generally you're going to end up going
very
stationary.
passive.
Yeah, well, you're not going to be moving around as much. Like a medium tank, I would be a little wary on, because you're expected to be moving and shooting, right?
Yep.
But with a Grill, generally, yes, you're going to be moving from time to time, but it's generally just to get to your new firing position.
Well, exactly. Now, the one counterpoint to that, though, is the Grill is very fast, and it can keep up with the mediums, or sometimes it has to flex around the map. So having that extra view range while you're moving to make sure you don't run into something unexpectedly, it can be useful, which is a benefit that you'd get over having the coated optics over the binos.
A nice shot from Zakum firing on G-Forcer. G-Forcer taking more fire as well as
from
Artie
the artillery.
Comes in on him there.
Yeah, but this is where the Kronwagen excels. It has 12 degrees of gun depression, 105 millimeter gun, 120 millimeter gun, 400 damage, and Urtai finds flak and takes him down.
That hurts a lot.
And that's G-Forcer also is ammo racked right now.
Yes. That was from the artillery. That's all. And
Tesla's no longer has his repair kit, so he can't heal it.
Well, maybe he's holding it. It's possible there, because I don't think he was tracked by Zakum, who was able.
He's already burned his repair kit one way or another. Looking at it.
Oh, you can tell.
Yeah, he has rations and a fire extinguisher left, so opting to not bring a first aid kit. Instead, going with the repair kit.
What if that's what he did? What if he brought he brought the first aid kit? Oh no.
We'll have to check next time he plays, see what out he runs. Most people would drop the first aid kit first, depending on the tank.
But G-Forcer's a heavy. We think of him as a heavy tank pro, and some of those heavy tank pros, those people who've been playing him so long, have decided that, you know what, it's not worth it for the repair kit or for the med kit on this tank on this map. I'm going to choose to take the risk of, yes, I'm ammo racked, I've been fire slower, but I'm going to, try and offset that by bringing rations, and hopefully I'll be able to perform well enough because of the rations that it'll change the course of the battle enough for him.
We are 4 minutes and 40 seconds away from Valence getting round number 5 and walking away with a 5-1 victory just from time expiring, because right now it doesn't look like Rival have a whole lot that they can do.
Yeah, I would expect Rival to put some cap pressure on in a minute or something, but it is strange to see. Ouch. Okay, Zakum taking a lot of damage. Valence is finally starting to catch on. I liked seeing the timing. That was two shots from two different angles.
Both teams brought artillery, and you have to speculate, especially in a map like Proc, that was brought to deal with these tanks that can play hold downs, especially the Kronwagens.
Yeah, and we're going to be actually seeing whether or not countering out a Kronwagen is something that teams are going to be working on, because the Kronwagens come in, people have been trying to deal with it and hold down, but ultimately I haven't seen anyone try to counterplay a Kronwagen. There's no one who said, okay, we need to kill this Kronwagen, we're going to bring this specific tank or run this specific strat or play this way so that we can deal with the Kronwagen.
Well, speaking of strats, Rival's choice to go over towards the 8-9 line is a rather peculiar choice if you look at the lineup. Something that a lot of players learn to do, just even in pub matches, let alone as a caller.
Oh, this is the attack. Okay, Rival's going for it. Unknown One is up and over. J-Smooth right behind him. Zakum a little bit late to the fight. They're going to go right for Zone Delta. 1 shell into him so far out of 3 shots fired, and Unknown is almost dead.
But Rival are paying the price right now. They're down by about 3,000 HP already. J-Smooth is going to be the next to fall. Rival also, or Unknown One, excuse me, also a one-shotter. Commander Jade does find the shot onto G-Forcer, but Unknown One has almost no HP left.
And that's going to be Executives down, Flak, and J-Smooth, 3 of the tier 10s for Rival. And that's at a cost of G-Forcer and Zone Delta, 2 of the tier 10s for Valence. So advantage right now goes to Valence. They are the defenders. They have twice the hit points almost as their opponent. It's going to be about that cleanup for Valence. And, well, maybe it could just be a time to let the clock run out. We'll see what Valence goes for. But they should be able to make a counter push and get the kills that they need to clean this one up. It's going to be match point in the game for them, which this has been relatively quick out of Valence. They've done handy work with Rival. I don't think Rival really hasn't put up much of a fight this whole time. Valence has really just made the play, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And Rival got a little bit unnecessarily aggressive there. But what I was just talking about is it was a very interesting choice from Rival to set up the way they did because it didn't leave a whole lot of options. They essentially, if you look at the lineup, what I was going to go on is look at the lineup that Valence brings. And this is something that players have to do when they go and start playing pub matches as well. Look at the lineup and predict what that team can do well. They have an artillery, they have a grill, and they have an IS-7. They can reset that 2-cap for days with the artillery. If they take control of the West, they have the resets. The Kronwagen can play the railroad as well as the IS-7. There is no way effectively to cap. And it just doesn't make sense. Unless they had a plan to counter that play, which it doesn't appear they did, it just doesn't... I failed to figure out exactly what they were going for.
And this... I have to agree. I think Rival's going for something, but they're having trouble really making something happen, a strategy that we can catch on to. It's hard to read. And we'll have to see if they're able to clean this one up. That's going to be it. Valence is going to take this one 5